I call our regular meeting of the Plan and Design Commission to order. It is June 18th, 2024. Will you please take the roll?
Yes.
Director Fontaine.
Yes. Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Arnold. Commissioner Mantis.
Present.
Commissioner Hecht.
Here.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Present.
We have a quorum. And I'd also like to recognize Alex Mendoza, student rep, and council member, city council liaison, Yumi Ross, and corporation counsel Martinez, present here this evening.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on June 4th, which was our last meeting. So can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, moved by Vice Chair Kirsch, seconded by Commissioner Hecht. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? Any comments? Okay, well, I had a few comments. So on packet page 2, where we're actually talking about the May 21st minutes, I still think, so line number 42 and 43, I still think this is unclear. We need to be saying that Mr. Ledesma stated that the opening to the surround for the mechanical equipment will not face the residents, so that those noises don't go to the residents, which my understanding is that they understand, but I just wanted to make sure it was correct in the minutes. Let me see here. Okay, and then I just wanted a clarification on packet page 4, lines 15 and 16, or 14, 15, and 16. It says, he noted the existing aluminum sign would block the restaurant. That doesn't make any sense. I think the concern is that if we put the sign on the aluminum bars that are where it's supposed to go, we're not going to be able to see it because of the trees that are in the way. And I think there was also a concern that since this is a little bit larger of an establishment, taking up more than one window, that by placing the sign over the 2 windows in the middle makes more sense because it shows that the restaurant is a little bit bigger of an establishment. All right. And then there was a comment on packet page 6 on line 24, and it's the Mrs. Rudick's comments. She says she loves dollop coffee. She has neighbor comments from residents who do not live on Pierce Road. I think what she was saying was that the comments that were brought to the meeting and sent into the building department or for the commission were not residents of Pierce Road. Those generally tended to be very positive comments. She was here to comment mostly on her behalf as a resident of Pierce Road, saying that she was concerned about the narrowness of Pierce Road and having a concern about traffic. Okay. And then, on packet page 8, down at the bottom on line 43, Chairperson Moore noted that there's also round fencing. I think I stumbled over my words, and I think I meant brown fencing, not round fencing, because I didn't really care about the round fencing. But I did know that the brown fencing discussion had come up. And then lastly, on packet page 9, we have a discrepancy on lines 4 through 7, where we say that we were having a roll call vote to move the matter of the Ravinia project to this meeting. And we have voting yay are Moore, Hecht, Henry, Kirch, and Mantis. Voting nay was Commissioner Kirch. Oh, no, well, that doesn't make sense because Kirch, I don't believe, was a nay, because then I declared that the motion passed unanimously. And here he's noted actually voting both ways in lines 5 and 6. So I believe, you did not vote no on that. Is that correct?
I voted aye on that motion.
Yes, so we can strike line 6 or put
I
nobody
should
in
have
there.
caught that.
That's all right.
On me.
Okay, so that was all the comments I had on the minutes. So with those amendments,
I'm amenable to
okay.
accepting those
so-
amendments in the motion.
and how
As
about-
am I.
All right, thank you. So now can we call the vote?
It's a voice vote.
First one.
Oh, it's a voice vote. I will get this someday. All right, so all in favor of approving the minutes with the corrections from the June 4th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? So all in favor were aye. The motion the minutes pass. Okay. So our first item is already open. It's the public hearing ZTA-2024-00014 for an amendment to a special use permit in the nature of a plan development and design review with modifications to city code at 418 Sheridan Road. Also, this is the Ravinia development that we have been speaking of. So Carl, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Okay. Hello, my name is Carl Burhup. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Planning Division, Community Development Department. So this is a presentation on the continued application by Ravinia Festival Association for their Plan Development Amendment and Design Review. This was at the commission 2 weeks ago on June 4th. It was continued to today. This slide is the same as 2 weeks ago. This just shows the location of the proximate area of change of improvements. The project is multifaceted, but it includes a machine room rooftop addition on top of the building within the footprint, changes to expand an existing loading dock on the north side, various technical improvements throughout the pavilion building, as well as audience area improvements to the auditorium area, and then backstage and facility improvements. So the previous consideration and update, the fence. So the applicant is proposing a green ornamental fence that is a modification from that section of city code and the fence code, that it be a black powder coat finish, not powder coat. In the staff report, I did note that the color variation was requested for the north fence along Lambert Tree Road back in 2020, and that was approved. That request also requested a height modification, which this application also requests, and that was also approved back in 2020. There's also the requirement for the solid fence along the loading area. That's per an Article 22 landscaping requirement. The applicant submitted an updated narrative where they indicated they are open to that discussion. Staff had indicated that the commission, in the report, that the commission can discuss if a solid fence along the loading area, in addition to what's already proposed by the applicant, is appropriate. In the applicant's updated narrative, they put to writing what they had stated or testified to 2 weeks ago, that they would be fine with some type of timer for a wall-mounted lighting, for the new wall-mounted lighting going along the east facade facing the neighborhood. And so it was staff's recommendation in the report that the commission could consider that as a condition, that the wall-mounted lighting be turned off by midnight or whatever time the commission deems appropriate. I know the applicant had discussed midnight in their narrative. And then also that the proposed signage, that the light could match that and be turned off by whatever time the commission deems appropriate. There was one new comment from the neighbor, and in the staff report, I had not addressed the city's response to that, but was able to get the city's response from the engineering division, and they just state that existing and proposed site plans do not show a net change in impervious area. And then in addition, I'll just add that the city's engineering division and building division did not object to any of the grading and drainage related proposals for this application. And of course, this will have to be reviewed through the building permit process if this proceeds. The final update was that a neighbor had discussed, testifying at the last meeting, what the improvements would look like approximately from their home. Of course, we do not encourage applicants to trespass onto people's property, so this is a rendering that the applicant provided from the street. I believe it's Delta Lane. And so this is looking northwest. So the Ravinia, and I believe this is an applicant's exhibit, but I believe this is from Google Street View because I pulled up Google Street View and it's essentially the same. The Ravinia Festival, well, the Pavilion building, you can see it, it's the building right there. That's the Pavilion building. And so then this is the applicant's exhibit of the existing conditions. Obviously there's tree cover in between. And then this is the applicant's exhibit of the new rendering. And so I can just go back and forth. We're looking right here, the machine room rooftop addition. And then related to that, staff, and I think the commission as well, wanted to clarify what the step back was. How far is the addition from the edge of the roof? And at the closest point, the north, it's 8.5 feet, 8.5 feet, 8 feet and 6 inches back from the edge of the roof. And then of course it's angled, so it actually opens and gets further away as you go south, but that's the closest point. And this is just meant to show this. I tried to zoom in on it. This was in the packet. So this shows the step back, setback, and then how it opens. And this also shows that the distance to the nearest property line is 66 feet. Modification changes. So the impervious surface ratio, the applicant added pervious area that was highlighted on the landscaping plan. So there's no net, I should say no net change. There's no net change. The fence, as I already stated, the applicant clarified that the green colors requested. That's technically a modification. And then the landscape requirements, if the commission finds that the screening as proposed is sufficient and that the applicant does not have to provide the solid wall along the loading area, then technically that is also a modification from Article 22. That actually was discussed 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to be clear about that. This was the landscaping exhibit. Again, that's just showing the pervious area that was added. This was in the packet. And this is just showing that loading area. Again, this was in the packet. So this is showing how the loading area is expanding. It's better in the packet, but you can see the landscaping that the applicant is proposing along this area. They meet the landscaping quantity requirements. They're meeting them and exceeding the quantity of landscaping that's supposed to go in. And so that's my presentation. This is a public hearing. The commission should reopen the hearing and take testimony, deliberate and direct as appropriate. The commission, if ready, can direct findings of fact to come back to the next meeting. Commission's a recommendation body for plan developments. The city council is the decision maker.
All right, thank you. Do we have any, questions for staff at this point?
Just have one. On that rendering on Delta,
Yes, sir.
how far is that house from, because that picture looks like they're right on top of each other, and I don't think that's the case.
Well, the best thing I can show for that, I mean, I can open up my computer and try to measure it, but this exhibit, that number, so this is the rooftop addition in this shaded red. And this corner is the closest to the property line, and so this indicates the setback to that property line, not to the house, but to the property line. And that number right there, which is maybe a little hard to read, I can tell you it says 66 feet.
Okay.
So then the distance to the house would be 66 feet plus whatever distance that house is set back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl, I got a question on the height aspect of it.
Yes,
'Cause
sir.
You noted in the packet that the 2006 ordinance granted them up to 50 feet in height.
That's right.
And we're not at 50 feet in height, even with what they're proposing. Is that correct, or am I missing something?
What they're proposing is approximately 1 to 2 feet less than the existing high roof line of about 47 feet.
So they're still within the 50 feet that was granted them
Yes, I mean, that
18
is,
years ago?
I mean, this is
Or am I-
additional.
I'm missing.
Oh, sorry. This is additional bulk, obviously, than what was considered in 2006. That's why it has to be considered again. But you are correct, though, that they are not asking to go beyond that, that limit. That is correct.
And it's not any higher than it is now.
Right.
That is correct.
All right, any more questions from staff? All right, does the applicant have a presentation to make?
Jim Schmitz with Ravinia. I don't have a presentation, but I just wanted to let the commissioners know that I did have a chance to meet with the two residents that came to the last meeting that voiced concerns about fence color at the lights on the outside of the building and the bulk of the new equipment room. I met with them a couple days after the meeting and again today. They're not here tonight. They're satisfied with what we're showing. They saw these renderings. We spoke personally, so just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, do we have any questions for Mr. Schmitz? I have a question. Is there now currently a solid fence blocking the view of the loading dock?
No, there's not. It's
No.
a chain link fence.
Oh, it's right, that's right, it's
Yep.
chain link, and there is vegetation there, though?
There is.
Okay,
There is not as much as what is being proposed in
Correct.
this plan.
okay. And you have no problem if we condition the lights to be turned off at midnight and the lighted sign to be turned off at midnight?
No, none
Okay.
whatsoever. And I should have clarified in what I submitted that would be in the season. In the
season.
off season, we could go much earlier than that,
Right.
8 o'clock or whatever
Okay.
you think is appropriate.
Okay. Any more questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we need to, do we have any comments from the public? No comments from the public. All right, so we as a commission need to deliberate on the few conditions for approval here. So do we have an agreement that the hours of lighting for in-season would be midnight for the sign and for the wall-mounted lighting? Is that amenable to everybody?
I don't see how it could be earlier.
No, I don't either. Just want to make sure I got everybody's opinion.
Yeah, no.
And that would be in season, in the winter, not in season, what would we think? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
I think the applicant said 8 o'clock, so
Okay,
he seems to be okay with it.
all right. 8 o'clock sounds good, especially because, that'll be 4 hours of lights on in the depth of winter. All right, what do we think about the solid fence needed for the loading area? Or is the landscape screening going to be enough? Carl, would you put the map up as to where exactly, how much fence we're talking about?
Yes, let me think of the best slide for this. Well, okay, this is just one slide. So this shows the approximate length of the loading area. The actual length of the actual truck maneuver and loading area is 74 feet in length. And so it'd be a fence of approximately that length.
And where would it,
This would be, I believe this is Iris.
well, where would the fence be? Would it be right next to the area, or are we turning that existing fence into an 8-foot tall fence?
Well, staff's suggestion was that the commission could consider if the applicant can, keep their proposed fence and their proposed landscaping, but in addition, consider some type of solid fence up along. the
Okay,
loading
so an
area.
additional fence.
Again, it was a staff suggestion for the commission to consider.
Okay. What does the commission say about an 8-foot fence along the loading dock?
I think there's plenty of screening already, and it's
Yeah.
way much further away from any property line.
Okay.
I think if there's a loading dock that's already there, it
Okay.
doesn't seem to be an
It's
issue.
kind of a,
No, I
okay.
don't think so.
Redundant.
Okay, then I guess we don't need.
And also noting they're putting in landscaping above and beyond what's required by code.
Okay. So Carl, are there any other issues we need to consider?
The only other condition is somewhat of a standard condition. Even though the applicant indicates that they'll comply with the 3,000 Kelvin, that is a staff recommendation nonetheless, that the commission would adopt that condition of approval as well.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, then we can add that, and are we okay, now we need a variance for the landscaping screening around the foundation, correct?
Correct. That is
Okay.
one of the modifications that is
And are we
requested.
okay with that, commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other decisions that we need to make, Carl?
Well, in terms of what was presented 2 weeks ago, plus today, no.
Okay, right. All right, so are we ready to ask for the planning division to come up with findings of fact? Do we want a motion? Can we get a motion?
I would move that we direct the planning staff to draw up findings of fact recommending approval of an amendment to a special use permit in the nature of planned unit development and design review with modifications as discussed for 418 Sheridan Road, also known as the Ravinia property.
Motion by Vice Chair Kirch, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hecht. Can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Henry,
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch,
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. This item directed to.
Well, there should also be a continuance for that.
Yes.
Sorry.
Right.
I move
the
to
next
continue this
meeting-
matter to the next meeting.
The next meeting is?
Tuesday, July 2nd.
Second.
Okay,
Commissioner Hecht's motion.
please call the roll on that question.
Commissioner Henry,
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis,
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
Motion carries. This item has been continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting, 7 PM, City Hall. There'll be no further notice. Notice is actual, and that date, Carl, is the 2nd of July?
That is right. Tuesday, July 2nd, 7 PM here at this location.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item, shall I just read the script
Do
first?
you have that? Yes.
I have the script.
Yes, this is new. Just making sure you had it. Thank you.
So I can read that instead of reading it and then reading the script. Okay, so welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Danny Mantis.
Adam Hecht.
Steve Kirch.
Ken Henry.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort to not be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, It will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park.
And again, this is public hearing SUP-2024-00002 for zoning map amendment to rezone to Public Activity PA zoning district, a special use permit to establish a community and recreation center conditional land use, and for design review with zoning variations at 636 to 640 Ridge Road, also known as West Ridge Center. Carl, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you. So this project has 3 requests to it. It requests a zoning map amendment, which is a rezoning, the special use permit to establish a new land use, and the design review with variations. And so this is the location of the site. It's on the west side of the city, along Ridge Road. The proposal, there's various parts of the project. Primarily the project is to demolish the existing community and rec building, which is approximately 43,000 square feet in area, in floor area, and then build a new 23,500 square foot community and rec center on the southeast part of the property. So approximately half the size of what's there right now. The background, so the Park District did provide neighborhood outreach before submission. That was updated in the packet yesterday. 640 Ridge Road, which is this in the corner, just for the commission's FYI, already has a existing special use permit for a child care facility. And then I'll just state that no written comments were received by staff for this proposal as of now, or none were received. Okay, so the existing versus proposed. So the red outline here is just supposed to be the property boundary. The brown building, or maybe that's considered reddish, but the brown building, that's the existing childcare facility. So principally what's happening is the existing building here is going to be demolished and it's going to be rebuilt in the southeast part of the property. That's principally what's happening. Obviously, there's some other changes as well. There's some changes to the parking lot in the north. Along the east, the parking lot will remain, but it is being kind of restriped and reoriented. The safety village is being relocated here, as we're right now. It's located right there. I actually didn't know what that was. I just found out that's just an area where they put basically it's like a miniature city, very miniature. And it's just for children to learn safety as they go about a community. And then there are 2 baseball fields now, and then they're going to be reoriented. This is just meant to show the setbacks. So this is zoomed into the southeast part of the property where the new community center is proposed to be located. About 124.5 foot setback to the east property line along Ridge. And then along the south, which obviously abuts single family homes, a 90-foot setback from the building to the property line. I actually checked what the closest was on the north. On the north, at the closest point, it's something like 52 or 53 feet. It was in the plat of survey in the packet. Technically, it's 47 3/4 feet to the outdoor area. That's not a building, though, but it is an outdoor structure area. And then nearly 38 feet to the safety village. All those comply with the setbacks. There are no all bulk regulations are met for height and setbacks for this proposal. Zoning code variations through the design review process, which the commission is the decision maker for these specifically. So again, landscaping, the 5 foot in depth planting buffer that's supposed to be around the foundation. The code does allow some breaking for where there are certain, doors, sidewalks, mech space, et cetera. The applicant proposed canopies overhanging the building if the commission looks at the elevations that essentially act as a porch, and the applicant indicates the plantings may not be feasible within that specific area because of the shade. The applicant's providing actually more than the landscaping quantity that's required, and I have a separate slide on that. Then for exterior lighting, the applicant indicated 8-inch recessed LED and grade uplights with that bug rating, the backlight, uplight, and glare. And then also the bollard lights, and those do not meet the technical bug requirements, the backlight, uplight, glare requirements. And so, that there either has to be a variation that the commission can approve if the commission finds, or the applicant has to revise those to comply. So on the top is the elevation that was in the report. It faces the street, it faces ridge. The one on the south, the bottom is the south, and that faces the neighbors closest to the south. These elevations were in the packet. I just put this slide up here. These are the materials. Again, this was in the packet. The applicant is going to use a variety of brick, fiber cement panels, and glazing for the building. The neighborhood, again, this was a snip from the report. Again, the building's essentially right here on the northeast side. The closest point from the building to a residential property line's 50-some feet. Applicant proposes to relocate the building here, where the setback was 90 feet from the building to the property line. And so, on the west, there's the Red Oak Lane and then school district property. And then on the east, there's Ridge Road. And then you have residential properties abutting along the north and the south. Landscaping. So again, there's the 5-foot planting depth at the foundation. Oh, sorry, that's a typo. No, this is for the new building. But yeah, the landscaping requirements are all met. The applicant is plus on everything. I already discussed lighting. And again, I'll just bring up the standard condition. Now the applicant's materials did indicate 3000 Kelvin, but again, it's always a recommended condition. And then this is the standard for lighting variation. The commission is authorized to consider bug rating variations, provided that no such variation may be granted unless the variation will cause no greater impact on the surrounding property than the standards set forth in this chapter. Commission should open the public hearing, take testimony, deliberate, and direct as appropriate. Commission is a recommendation body for the special use permit and rezoning. The city council is the decision maker on those two, but the commission is the decision maker on the design review and those two variations. All right, and that's my last point. The only other thing I want to add is about the rezoning, because I guess I don't have a slide on that. So the property is currently zoned R4 single family, and that's the same zoning as the residential neighborhood to the north and to the south, and also the school property to the west. And then to the east, it's a single family district as well. It's the R6, but that allows smaller properties than the R4, but they're all single family zoning districts. And so I did have in the staff report, there were several paragraphs on the rezoning. And so I'll just point out, staff had included the definition for the public activity district in the report. And essentially the public activity district is intended, for public use and public agencies. And I'll just point out this is owned by the park district and it's intended for public use. Then I'll also indicate that staff did look at this neighborhood district master plan. It's the Southwest Neighborhood District. And there was in that master plan, there was a recommendation during that master planning process that no rezonings occur that would allow for more divisible land. Well, by rezoning this to public activity, It doesn't allow residential uses. Of course, you could still theoretically subdivide it. You can subdivide any property, but you wouldn't be able to subdivide it for residential purposes by rezoning this to PA. As we're right now, it's rezoned R4. Then I'll just also point out that the community and recreation center land use, that's a conditional use. That's what's there now. That's actually not allowed in the R4 district. And so it's a non-conforming use. But it is allowed in the PA district as a conditional use. So rezoning, which would have to be the first action taken by the commission, then allows the applicant to proceed with their request for the special use permit to establish that land use. Those are the only comments I have on the rezoning. And I can take questions if there are any.
Do you have any questions for staff?
I have a question on the public activity zoning and why we have what we have. When I was looking at the map, I kind of get that the public activity is the existing community center, senior center, right? And so this one would seem to fit with that, but I also noticed that Centennial is not public activity and neither is Fink, and they both have recreation buildings on them. So I'm just wondering what's the logic? What's the reasoning? I mean,
I think the PA zoning is a newer form of zoning, is that correct? And so as these
Yeah.
projects come through, we're like updating them. So if something comes through for Hidden Creek, then we will update the zoning for Hidden Creek.
actually, I think Hidden Creek is already.
Well,
We did that one a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
With
we've
the
done
fire
this in a.
station too.
right,
Chair.
right, we did that with the, sorry, yes.
Yes, and you're right, and we have done this in a few places. One that comes to mind is the Aqua Park area, and there's a maintenance facility that the Park District constructed several years ago. It was part of a SUP process and rezoning. We also at that time rezoned the fire department's headquarters, PA, at that time as well. So it's consistent with our practice to do that. The Park District is requesting this change as well, and they've been working with us toward that goal.
Would it be wise to look at the other two properties as well?
Sure, it's outside of this scope, but yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
I think we'd have to get a mandate from the city council to do that.
Well, I don't think we could do it on our own. I'm just saying, you know how I feel about inconsistencies, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to have them treated differently. And whatever the problems might arise with the residential zoning on this site could arise at either of those other two sites.
All right, any more questions for staff?
What is the zoning on the west? I know the schools,
It's R4
so
single family.
all around, surrounding it's R4.
To the north, the south, and the west. To the east is R6, across
Okay.
Ridge Road.
Except
Oh, 'cause
our
it says
slide
R6.
says R4.
Right, that's why, I live on Sumac and I'm R6, that's what I was wondering. I'm wondering about that.
Oh, you mean right here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is wrong.
Hey, look at that, look at that.
Okay, any more questions for staff? All right, do we have a presentation from the applicant? All right, come on up. Okay. Oh, wait,
Yeah, when you step up,
before we start, so I'll need you to raise your hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Everybody who's planning to. Okay. All right. And please state your name and spell your last name as you speak so that we can make sure your name is in the record properly.
Sure. I am Brian Romes, BrianRomes.
All right. Sure, why not?
My name's Amalia Schwartz. I'm the planning manager.
Please spell.
Oh, Amalia,
Uh-huh.
and then Schwartz, Schwartz.
Hi, Barbara Dixon, from Halliburton Root. It's B-A-R-B-A-R-A. Dixon is D-I-C-K-S-O-N.
Okay, thank you. And
Eric Reisinger, Halliburton Root, E-R-I-C-R-I-S-I-N-G-E-R. Thank you.
thank you. All right, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Brian Rums. As I said, I am the Executive Director for the Park District of Highland Park, and very grateful for the commission, the staff, Councilmember Rouse for the review of our application to construct a new recreation center at Westridge Park, replacing the existing facility, which is roughly 100 years old. Tonight with us, we just did some introductions, but Amaya Schwartz is our project manager for this project. I'll turn things over to her in just a few minutes here, and then we have our team, our architectural consultants with Halliburton and Root. Our Park Board President, Calvin Bernstein, is also here, Director of Projects and Planning, Jeff Smith, and then our legal counsel with Ansel Glenk, Adam Simon. We would all be delighted to answer any questions that you have in regards to our application. Just to give you a little bit of background, this originally was a school 100 years ago, and since the 1970s, the Park District has been operating it to provide essential recreational services to the community, and our hope is to provide those services for decades to come in this new facility. Planning for this project did begin 10 years ago. We did an assessment of the current facility and found that there were many deficiencies with the building infrastructure, including ADA, accessibility, safety, and we did put in our master plan about 10 years ago to recommend decommissioning this building, renovating it, or rebuilding it at this existing site. And so the Park District, we've obviously maintained and assured that it is safe and accessible over the years, but the Park Board is now recommending that we move forward with the most feasible option, which is to build a new facility on the existing site. And so before I turn it over, I just want to talk real quickly about our Park District values that are integral in our programming and design of this facility. Our values are to be welcoming, caring, and extraordinary. And so we want to create a facility that, of course, is welcoming, not just the building, but integrates the park and takes care of all of our essential recreational services, making sure that they are inclusive, accessible, sustainable, and flexible for a variety of uses. We want to be responsible and invest in the care of this essential community resource that maximizes efficiency of space. We're actually decreasing, as you saw, the square footage of space, decreasing the footprint by adding leading practices for safety and security essential for the facility. And we want to create an extraordinary facility that provides state-of-the-art facilities for gymnastics, for our core recreational programs, performing arts, early childhood, and camp, and much more. And then in looking at the design of the facility and the location of the facility, taking the same lens of our values, we want to maximize the integration of the outdoor space with the indoor space. We wanted to show care, of course, honor the neighborhood, understanding that this is a facility within a park, within a neighborhood, within a community. Obviously using sustainable design materials for maintenance and maximizing our financial resources available, staying within our budget. We also received a $1.4 million grant through Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and there are some requirements and timing necessities that go along with that grant. What we're very grateful for that award, and continue, as we'll kind of talk about our design architects, the significance of really integrating the inside with the outside and making sure that there's optimal use with the parkland and park space that is on the site. So with that, Manager Schwartz is just going to give a little bit of background on the community engagement that we did to get to this point, and then we'll turn it over to Halliburton Root.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the Park District values community input, and we started reaching out to the community back in May 2023. We had an open house where we shared the intent to relocate the building to the southeast side of the property. We posted information on our website. We had periodic, or this topic was on the agenda at our public meetings with our, with our park board, which were posted following the Open Meetings Act. We generally heard positive feedback at that stage in the project, and we heard support for the need for the Park District to invest in addressing the aging Westridge building. In March 2024, as we were completing schematic design, we met with our key stakeholders, which included our public sister agencies, affiliate groups that use the building regularly, and we also met with our neighbor located next door to Westridge Park, the Highland Park Community Nursery School. So we collected feedback. We shared the schematic design for that project, and like I said, collected feedback at that point. With the schematic design at a point where we were within our budget, the Park District held 2 community meetings, 1 neighbor meeting and 1 community open house in May 2024. At those meetings, I just want to mention that Carl did include those yesterday in the packet, so you do have notes from those meetings. The project continues to be generally well received. The proposal opens the park up, so we have, like Executive Director Romes mentioned, we are decreasing the size of the building, so we are gaining green space. We are addressing and updating the aging building, improving our services at the building. We did hear some questions, concerns about the relocation of the ceramics program. We heard interest in adult programs. We heard questions about the athletics gym. And we also heard some questions from a few of our neighbors at adjacent properties. As the staff report notes, the Park District project exceeds the step back requirements. Though one of our objectives is to be respectful and honor the neighborhood. So as such, you'll see in the landscaping plan that there is added landscaping in that buffer along Ridge Road to our neighbors that are already across the street from the existing parking lot, but there is a green buffer there that we're increasing landscaping. Before I'm going to turn it over to Halliburton and Root. They have some very nice pictures that highlight and illustrate what the building looks like and the siting of the building. But I want to mention this slide that I have up here, because I think while we're focusing on the exterior of the building, I think context of what's inside the building is helpful too. So this building is going to have a gymnastics gym. It's going to have a recreational program office space. There will be a multi-function dance room, enrichment rooms, a community room, meeting room, an event lawn or outdoor classroom, and then an enrichment courtyard. The intent of this building is to be flexible and functional. So it can host enrichment programs for all ages. That could be a coding class or a early childhood program. It could be a community rental space for our affiliate groups to rent. We have the HP Pops that rent. We have various affiliate groups that support programs that this building can support. It will have gymnastics programs and then also visual and performing arts. So, and this is just a short list of all the things that could happen in these flexible rooms that can support programs for all ages. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. If we can, there's one correction that I want for clarification. So we are showing Safety Village and we are showing the ball fields. Those are not part of this application and would be happening in a future phase. So I just want to clarify those 2 elements. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you.
So yeah, so you can use this to just go back and forth. And then if you want to point to anything, you can just use this mouse and it has the big pointer to help point it out.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right, good evening. Thank you for having us here this evening. So I'm going to walk through a series of slides, kind kind of get into the renderings, and then we'll kind of back out a little bit and talk a little bit more about the technical aspects of the project. But what you're seeing here is the existing site plan and the existing building on the facility. What was interesting about this project was really trying to understand this building that was recommended for decommissioning, and how do you go about planning the new facility with the existing facility on the site. One of the items that we have talked about extensively is obviously looking at cost-saving measures and not disrupting the current program space. So as we talked about with the planning of this building and looking at the southeast corner, it's with the intent to keep the existing building operational while the new facility is being under construction, then going back in and removing the old facility and then opening up the new facility at the same time. Highland Route does many schools throughout the Midwest. This is kind of a number one item that we typically look for our clients, and that is, how do you effectively build a new facility without adding really extensive costs to the project and maximizing the dollars really back into the program? So these are some of the views, and we can certainly talk about these, but these are the surrounding areas. They're in the packet, and we can certainly reference this in the future if we have anything in particular. But what you're seeing up here today is the overall kind of what we're calling kind of our master plan site plan, where we have the building that's showing the kind of this new footprint in the southeast corner. And then you're seeing then the proposed ball fields, both the large ball field and then the small ball field. Small ball field would occupy the space where the old facility would be taken down, and that would become now future additional green space. Our entire goal for this project was to not increase the impervious surface on the project, and really, if we can, even looking at decreasing it. At the same time, maintaining the existing assets that are on the West Ridge Park area and trying to add further enhancements. One thing that we'll just note that'll continue to show up is that if you recall from the staff report, the existing ball fields that are there now are fairly close to the property line. We are actually actively moving everything away from the south property line. So this starts to show just the kind of the diagram of what we are working on. And what's interesting about this is at the north end of the property, I'm just going to point to it here. So that north end, that's actually existing parking. So all we're trying to do is leverage what we already have there currently. What's a little bit unique is that when the old school will come down, we're going to be able to create an active curb line and just kind of clean up that edge. But our entire goal is to maintain and leverage all of the existing parking that we have. So at the north end, that existing parking is to remain. And then we have the existing parking at the cursor arrow, and we're going to be doing some modifications at the center island, trying to clean up kind of the safety of getting in and out of that. And if you guys recall, we do have that kind of U-shaped turn of the drop-off that the West Ridge School utilizes. That'll be removed. And so we won't have traffic kind of converging at almost two driveway curb cuts on Ridge Road. So the intent is to really clean up the active safety on the site, have a natural drop-off zone for those participants for the rec center, and to really place this building so that we can actually create additional green space. So a fairly complex drawing that I don't know if I can fully read, but what I would say is the blue represents kind of the underlay of the existing property as we see it, as it exists today. And so what we're showing is how and I'll point this out in a second, but how the existing school would come down, new ball field would come into its place, showing some of the existing parking remaining, and at the same time, removing the old drop-off loop, and creating a safer entrance into the existing parking immediately off of West Ridge. So this area here, removal, and then new parking. So we have some renderings that we'll walk through and to start to show what is the proposed overall project. And the intent behind this aerial is to demonstrate a number of things. One is the buffer zone that we have, that we're maintaining between the existing parking lot that is on the southeast portion of the property towards Ridge Road, with additional landscaping that's being introduced for additional screening, which was a comment that we had received in some of our community meetings and open house meetings. In addition, what you're seeing on here is that kind of that gray or tan square, that's Safety Village. Again, that's not part of this application, and we are studying where it might go. There's just two things that have been requested. One is from a youth enrichment perspective, the teachers do like to use Safety Village for the children, for the educational purposes. Whether it's here or whether we keep it in its kind of its current location, that's something that we're going to continue to evaluate as we go through the overall site plan. But again, the adjacency from a programmatic perspective was asked for. And then what you see at the south end of the building is you see kind of that proposed outdoor courtyard. That is a outdoor kind of youth courtyard, as Manager Schwartz indicated. But what's interesting about that is that can flex for art classes, it can flex for the youth enrichment. So it's really intended to be a kind of these quiet learning spaces, but just give us an opportunity for outdoor space. And then at the north end, what you're seeing is you're seeing the kind of the outdoor kind of event area, lawn area, flexible for the community rooms, meeting event rooms. One of the items that we learned during programming about 2 years ago, and it's just extensively going through the use and utilization of this property, is that these community rooms, being able to open them to the outdoor area, being able to have different events that people can use these spaces but have the indoor-outdoor experience is very important to the overall kind of culture and utilization of the facility. So again, having that space at the north end is intentional and very important for them. So this area here, south courtyard, and then this is still being discussed. So now we're looking at kind of a little bit of an aerial view of the kind of the northeast corner of the building. So what we're seeing is the main entry, and it's where you see kind of a couple of people maybe walking into the building. To the right of that or to the north. So north is to your right-hand side, south is to the left. So at the north end, what you're seeing are the community rooms. So they are kind of this transparent wall, doors that open up out onto the event lawn. And then what you're seeing is intentionally is our design to keep a single-story presence around the entire perimeter of the building. So the goal was that as we're facing the different residential neighborhoods, we wanted to make sure that we have as we call it, kind of a quiet facade, a quiet presence, but single story. And then the gymnasium is in the center of the building. And that's that clear story that you see just popping up above the roof line of the single story element. We have designed into this detail mechanical wells. So none of the mechanical units will be seen from the street. They will be in these wells. So it'll do two things. It'll help us both with not seeing them, as well as also screening the sound from these. And again, the setbacks will be plenty, but in addition, really working with staff and working with the park board, wanted to make sure that that was an important element that we discuss. And then all the materials are sustainable materials, can be recycled materials, and so very conscious of the sustainable practices for this facility. So now as we kind of look at the parking lot as if we were parking and starting to walk in, what we're seeing here is the main entry. Then to the left of the main entry is the dance and multi-purpose studios. And then as we go further to the south, we see back towards kind of that courtyard area. But looking at different brick materials for the facade, trying to just have a kind of a little bit of a fun presence with the colors, and the colors are representing the colors of the Park District of Highland Park, and also these kind of what we call these porches, really welcoming people to come in, stand under them during inclement weather. And we mimic this detail both on the east side of the building, the main entry, but also on the west side, on the park side. Again, the intent is that if you're out on activity outside and you need to come into the building or want some shelter in the building, that would be available to the users of the park. So now from this aerial, as we look, so here we are standing kind of almost south or northwest, looking southeast. So what we're seeing are those community rooms, the event kind of patio, the event lawn, and really trying to create a plaza area. And what we, in our programming, what we had discussed was it would be great if parents were out here and they're gathering, that an opportunity where the ball game is going on, maybe there's another event happening, or at least an opportunity to gather. And we all know, or used to be, springtime, fairly cold, fairly wet. So having somewhat of an area to gather and not sink into the sod would be great. And so multi-purpose, multi-function, really intended to be limitless and just in terms of how it can support the rec programming and community uses for this area. And again, so now we are, if you guys recall from our overall site plan, we have the existing playground and kind of those existing basketball courts that were there. So if we're walking now back towards the building or towards the parking lot, that's where we're standing. And so this is the view that we would have as we're going to approach the building really from the west. In our design efforts, the intent is that this gymnastic gymnasium, that it kind of reaches out above the single-story element of the wraparound uses of this building, is really intended to kind of have this glow to it in the evening, so you kind of have this lantern feel. With the gymnastics functions going on in this space, one of the questions that we get is why not so much glass on the west elevation? Well, out of respect for the children or the adults that might be in the gymnastic gymnasium, we do want some privacy in there. We don't want everybody on full display and full view. So there are opportunities for views in, but certainly wanting to be respectful of the uses and programming that occur in that space. So these are the material boards that we have, and I do have the board here as well that I can show the commissioners, is that we are looking at three different blends of brick for the building, and we're using a cementitious siding and board for the eaves and for some of the infill panels. And the intent is to really draw upon a kind of a cedar look and really try to maintain the natural materiality and vocabulary that we would have for this park setting, but certainly in a material that is durable, that will not rot, that will candidly will last forever. And so on our buildings that we're doing now, rarely are we actually using wood, and obviously for sustainable practices, but the intent is to really draw upon the beiges to kind of the charcoals and look at different blending of the bricks. So what you'll see here is with the elevation to the east, and then the south elevation, which is the youth enrichment rooms, two different kind of blending of the masonry of the bricks, and just feel this is going to add, we think, a scale and an interest for the residential properties as well as for the building. And again, on the west elevation with the gymnastic gymnasium, this kind of cowl wall, and if you're not familiar with it, it is a translucent panel. So it's environmentally sustainable in terms of allows plenty of daylight in, so we can minimize how much artificial light we have to have in the space, but certainly gives us an opportunity for diffuse light, so we're not having to manage the thermal heat gain that we would get from a natural clear story window. And that's the board that we have in the packet for you guys. So in terms of the fixtures, Barb, I'm going to have you kind of clarify a few things, and then maybe you can walk us through the site plan. Does that sound good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So 2 buttons here.
Hi, good evening. Barbara Dixon with Halliburton Root again. Thank you for having us this evening. We did want to make sure we clarified a few items that were pointed out in the staff report. Obviously, the intent of the application is to be in compliance with as much as we possibly can. And so the first thing is we've been speaking with our electrical engineers and lighting designers and making sure that we can select fixtures that are compliant with the code requirements. Those have come back to us today, so we'll be resubmitting those to staff here yet this week. The intent would be not to use the uplight fixture on the exterior of the facade that I believe is the F1 fixture on your plan, and we'll stick with the wall sconce for everything, which is the F2. And the F2 obviously is one of the compliant fixtures and focuses on downlighting. We also worked with our electrical team and have another bollard that is compliant with all of the requirements. It's very similar in aesthetic, but obviously controls that downlighting, and we'll keep that in compliance. And those bollard lights are located along the drop zone in the front facade to make sure there's lighting for the sidewalk that's adjacent. So I think the other fixtures that we were proposing were under canopy lights that were within our canopy areas, just downlights, so that you could see in those areas. And those are compliant. We intend to keep those. Let me see if I'm going the right way. Yes, okay. So the other thing is obviously Park District trees are great. trying to keep as many trees as possible. Unfortunately, there's a few trees that are really, really close to the foundation of the existing building. And unfortunately, we don't think they're gonna make the demolition process. So we've slated those for demolition. They're within 10 feet of the building. Otherwise, we're trying to maintain everything. There's 1 or 2 trees also that are in the path of construction of the new sidewalk and building. So we are proposing to make up for any deficit in that area. Obviously, we want to keep as many as possible. We worked really hard to maintain the majority of the trees that exist around the existing building. Currently, right now, that east-west pathway that runs through the site that's kind of wiggly, we're maintaining that walkway because it has a lot of really large trees along it, and it's an amenity to the park. We don't want to lose that. It provides a nice separation between the ball fields, but still connectivity below, which is great, and we wanted to maintain that. So we'll continue that forward. So on the new landscaping, obviously our goal is compliance as much as possible. As Eric described on this building has a series of porches. And those porches need to be open and accessible for people to come in during inclement weather, but also gather if we need to. So what we're trying to do is provide the foundation landscaping where we thought it was easily feasible, which was right along the front of the building. So we have foundation landscaping along the center portion of the building that is 5 foot wide. And then we're taking the area that's north and continuing the trees, as well as we're proposing a butterfly low maintenance prairie mix that helps define and separate the event and outdoor classroom area from the walkways that are adjacent. A little bit of privacy, but still wide open visibility and an outdoor learning environment that could benefit some of the rec programs. The other thing we're trying to do is maintain, and while it looks very small in this plan, there's a really beautiful existing large tree on the southeast corner of the building that we're trying to maintain. It's right here. We moved the building around so that we can keep that. We wanted to make sure that stayed in the plan. So we're trying not to put new foundation plantings under that tree just to maintain its tree health, but put some trees in front of it. And to mitigate all of this, one of the things we're trying to do is put additional foundation style or lower screening as between the existing parking lot and the public sidewalk on Ridge. This both is in response to the neighbors' comments, but we also think it'll add that extra layer that would be beneficial to the site design. Okay, what's our next? Let's see. Oh, one other thing about the landscaping plan. I know the city forester commented about a deficit based on the plant species. We will adjust accordingly. We are trying to mimic the plant palette of the park and be respectful of that and not be completely divergent, but we'll find a way to make sure the plan is in compliance.
You just remind me, you are a licensed landscape.
I'm a licensed landscape architect in the state of Illinois. How's that? Sorry. Thank you. All right, then we'll keep going. So one of the things, just to add clarity to what Eric was providing information on before, the civil engineer did provide a site plan that overall showed the paving differences of what we're changing on the site, and it's relatively minor. One of the things that you'll see is up on the north side of the site, the existing parking is getting narrower into a kind of dual-sided aisle design. It's in place of existing parking, as Eric said, to provide more green space back to the park, and that area is going to get pretty torn up during the demolition of the building. So we're trying to clean that up as part of the overall site design. The other thing Eric mentioned is right now there's along Ridge Road, there are the drop zone for the existing front door of the existing building, and then the 2 access points for the existing south or main parking lot. So there are 2 entrances and exits to Ridge Road right now, right next to each other. What we're doing is eliminating one because it's a lot when there's a busy time. And we think it will help both increase safety, but also clarity of movement. Right now, a lot of people are coming in the one way that out, and they're coming in that way, and they're driving wrong way in the parking lot. So what we're doing is we're restriping the parking lot in order to make 2 directions of path through. Right now, you enter from the south and only drive north and then exit on the north. And they're coming in from the north and driving backwards. So we're providing the opportunity to respect the traffic patterns that are coming to the facility already and making sure that two-way traffic can move through the lot, as well as providing the drop zone at the existing building to replace the one that's being removed. Let's see, I think that's our presentation. Thank you. And we are happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I do have one.
Let's do that. Sure, we're gonna back up and show the animation real fast, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
If I have to exit that, I'll try it.
Right.
Should there be volume for this?
No, that's okay. I am. Eric, do you want to walk through?
Yeah, I'll
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
So what you're seeing here then is we're rotating around. We're at the south, now looking north. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of pan out to the west and start to look east back towards the building. You can see the relocated ball field to the left, the new proposed smaller ball field where the old facility would be taken down. As we rotate around, again, emphasizing just the view looking at the event lawn, the event patio, just some of the anticipated activity with the building. So we're now going to come down the sidewalk. We're actually going to walk from this this north end, and we're going to turn right. We're going to kind of walk south in towards the main entry. So you can see on the right and left side kind of the porch details that we were describing, and then the landscaping that Barb has described in terms of just screening and offering additional landscaping on that edge. Then we're going to kind of pull out and start to look at what that main entry starts to represent from the parking lot side, again, from this existing parking lot. And then, again, the aerial, as we described, demonstrating the existing buffer that exists between the existing parking lot and Ridge Road, but also trying to take advantage of that existing parking lot, the building sited. And now as we're going to walk as if we're from the south end of the building, we're going to walk north in the parking lot. And again, seeing the materiality of the building, the colorways of representing the Park District of Highland Park's colors, and then heading back towards kind of that main entry and certainly some animated birds in this.
Big bird.
I think our intern had a fun with that one. So, and then as we kind of pull out, we're going to see kind of another aerial for this, but really that park setting. We're very proud of kind of this view in one of kind of this kind of pavilion in the park concept. And then the final aerial as we see how this building then is sited with, again, the emphasis of leaving as much open space for the park setting as we have on the facility. So now we can certainly turn it over for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Mantos.
So I guess my question is from the end of your presentation with regard to the parking lot. So having been to the Westridge Center, parking lot's kind of chaotic in my experience. So I appreciate kind of the two-way traffic pattern. To my eye, and I don't have the dimensions off the top of my head, it seems narrow.
Presentation.
Just as a comment. And then I guess my question is there any plan on that middle angular parking to put like bumpers or anything to prohibit people from going too far into the other aisle?
You want to take that? And just to clarify, obviously Manhard Consulting's been working with us on this, so I'll let Barb kind of convey their comments.
Thank you. The existing curb lines of the lot are what we're keeping, and to put the spaces in as drawn are code compliant. The bumper stops that you're talking about are something that are very possible. We weren't showing them on the plan because obviously they're hard to navigate in snow removal periods, but they're otherwise very feasible in the middle. Yeah, because right now everyone it's a free for all sometimes. Most of the time everyone's very respectful, but every once in a while somebody's doing something crazy. So that would be an option that could be considered.
And while we're talking about the parking lot, I'm wondering if there's, you don't really show it on here, but sounds like we're talking about a drop-off zone. I assume that's gonna need to be kind of carved out or somehow highlighted that people are supposed to drive through, drop off their kid, not get out of the car, and then carry on out of the parking lot.
Yeah, So where the cursor is right now, we have a striped drop-off zone in that area.
Okay.
And what we have talked about is the concept of that it would be a drop zone primarily during the heavy use areas, but perhaps similar to what other park districts have done in these drop zones, where maybe between certain times you allow kind of a 5-minute standing so people could go in, pay a bill, or check in or something like that. But we have carved out that entire curb lane so we can stack cars now, which we can't currently do.
Right.
And we still have a bypass lane as well. So we're not blocking traffic and stacking it up onto Ridge Road.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
On the south end of the property, there's a pathway. And I know
Yes.
a lot of kids use to walk to it used to be walk to Red Oak, or even Sherwood. Is that?
We're maintaining that.
You maintain, okay, because
Yeah.
it's, I know you're not committing to Safety Village being where it's depicted, but that's not gonna interfere with that.
No. So on the plan, I'll show you, and I'll come back to it later. That pathway is here.
Right.
And Safety Village is off of that pathway. So it will not, if it were to be located there, it will not interfere with that.
Okay.
And at the same time, to your earlier point, we do know that there's some traffic flow that we get kind of cutting across, kids coming across the park for Red Oak.
Yeah.
So as we have been talking about, always wanted to maintain kind of those cow paths that already exist on there and not blocking those at all.
Then the other thing that I've noticed, my kids walked
Yep.
on that path
Yep.
100 years ago. There's always seems to have been a drainage problem in the ball fields. Is that being impacted by, has there been any, have you looked into that, whether the new building's gonna impact that?
We have, and thank you, because I think you're probably the 50th person that have brought that up to us.
I'm certain of that.
But yes, and so far doing it just, it is been a topic of discussion with Manhart, so.
Okay.
Do that? Okay. I'm trying to make it easier for you. So the new ball fields, obviously, when constructed, the whole intent is to make sure that the drainage is appropriate and they're not as wet as they are right now. So under drain system, also the grading for those would be positively drained so it wouldn't sit in the outfields that it's doing right now. And so we would better that condition. I think one of the things in particular is we're still studying with the construction manager as well as the civil engineer how to balance the site or haul off soil as it relates to the construction of the new building and the demo of the existing. And so ideally, the existing building would, when it comes down, the new construction soil left over from the new building would be put up north to build the north field. That would help raise that one up a little bit. And then obviously be able to regrade some of the south if and when that field gets implemented, we'd be able to do that too. Positive drainage, under drain.
Right, but the ball fields are not up for discussion today because they don't have a final design for them.
Right.
Right?
Okay. It's
Okay.
like,
But yes, they should be thinking about it.
and isn't there another ball field on the west side
Right-
currently?
Right now, you guys have there are 2 ball fields on the park, yeah.
Here and right there, approximately.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure, right.
Yeah, there's the one in the back,
So-
that's,
Yeah, so what we're doing is, we're gonna rotate one up and around, and then for the purpose of this discussion, then the other one would go in place of the building that would be coming down and new green space created. So in terms of just how we look at this, we're looking at trying to locate the activities to the center of the park. So if you think about now where the ball fields are situated, as a parent, you can have a child at the playground, you can have kids playing baseball, softball, and now we're not all spread all over the park at different spots. And so intentionally trying to drive the activity and the use towards the center, towards the basketball area, have just kind of this kind of hub so that this activity is done so it's easier for the parents to watch their children, see the games, and visit with other people as well. So this is, when we come back, this is what we're looking at trying to maintain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I heard that we're going to be solving the light variation requirements by getting different bollards and removing the uplighting and turning it all into downlighting. Is that correct?
That is
So
correct.
we don't really need to discuss that anymore?
Chair Moore?
Yes.
May I ask some
Absolutely.
questions? Thank you. And would Corporation Counsel and the two directors stop me if I am going into territory that I'm not allowed to speak to? I hope it's okay to say that I like the clean, sort of pared down look of the building. From an environmental standpoint and also warming up the building, have you looked at, I see a material board, reclaimed brick, permeable pavers in the parking lot, and for that matter, at some point you'll be talking about solar panels, and I assume. But from the sustainability point of view, have you looked at these things? And also, I would assume reclaimed brick would warm up the building as well.
Yeah, so from the reclaimed brick perspective, so we are working with a construction manager on this project. And so we can certainly ask them about that, but from a cost perspective, that has not been presented. And I appreciate your comments on that. Trust me, Halliburton Root, by the way, did the original pavilion at Ravinia. So certainly we are mindful of that. I think in this case, we're probably going to hear that it's probably too costly, but it's certainly a question we could ask on that. Now that we have the basis of design, happy to explore that if that's even an option. In terms of the permeable pavers, we've certainly been talking with the park board about kind of the event space, that if we can look at permeable pavers there. In terms of the existing parking lot, right now, we're trying to leverage what's already there, so that'll still maintain kind of the asphalt detail that we have, but certainly looking at how our outdoor areas can still be very sustainable. And then solar, yes, we'll be talking solar with the group and how this can be solar ready in the future for them.
Yeah, it's a nice, I pared down, I can't think of the words, but it has a subtlety to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Our design principal, Rusty Walker, be very happy to hear you say that. So I will share that with him. So thank you.
Oh, and one more, oh, go ahead.
I'm just curious as to how we got from a 43,000 square foot building to a
that was my other
23,000
question.
square foot building. And I'm just echoing what I've seen in some of the comments that were alluded to in the packet.
So we'll talk about the kind of the practical, then we'll talk about the reality. So the practical is that the current building, as it's being used, again, the use for the site doesn't change, right? So it's a recreation uses and recreation center fitting into an elementary school building. So in that building, in that 43,000 plus square feet, there is a lot of space that is underutilized. And so just from an intentional design point of view, that building was never intentionally designed for recreation spaces. So that's one. So that's how you go from 43,000 down to 23. But the other part in the reality is that we've seen, and this is W.B. Olson sharing with us, this construction manager at risk on the project, sharing with us that there's been an escalation of 47% from 2020 to 2024 in construction costs. And that has had an impact on our overall goals and wishes of the project. So we have, with the client, really looked at the core values of the park district and the core programming. And so this building is reflecting that core programming while maintaining a budget, because the budget is set and we cannot exceed their budget that they have set for this. So that's how we're at the 23,000 square feet.
And then just a comment, it's very difficult for me to do design review with the visuals I've been given on this, because some of it I saw for the first time tonight, the aerial and some of your other presentations. I didn't know there was any color panels in the design from what I saw in the original packet. So it would, I mean, it would really be helpful to me if I could see a much more detailed and clear set of drawings as to what this will look like.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
agree. It'd be
Would
nice to
the,
have
yeah, would the
more-
link to the animation video, would that be helpful?
Yeah, but I mean, the animation video sort of looks like just, you know, paper boxes in some ways.
Right, I mean, I
I'm just
think
not,
we need a more clear,
Sure.
larger
do a
rendering of what
larger
it's going to
format,
look,
yeah.
of what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
Because I
not a
mean, this
problem.
just looks like little square, I can't tell if those squares are windows, are they panels, what are they? So,
Sure.
do you have any?
that was it.
So I did have one more question, for the amount of glass that's in here and the fact that it may be kind of lit up at night glowing, it makes me think of, are we going to have bird-safe glass? Are we doing anything for bird safe? Because we're talking about being a green building and mindful of our environment, but if we have a whole bunch of dead birds there, that's probably not going to make people think that way.
So the clear story element where we would have a lot of potentially the bird path, that's going to be the cow wall material, so that's not going in here. So from a perspective of this board, so this is the cow wall material, that'll be the clear story, so it's a translucent panel, so from a bird safety view, they view this as a solid
Okay.
element, not as a transparent.
And are there any other areas like on the back of the building that we would have to worry about from a bird perspective?
Yeah, so we'll look at that further. I don't believe there is, but if for some reason in our study we find that we need to angle the glass so it's bird safe, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
And we don't want that either.
Right. Any more, hang on, let me grab the rest of the staff questions. So Commissioner Henry.
I do have a question, and I don't even know if it's within our purview, but I hear from your presentation that there seem to be a lot of areas of ingress and egress into this building. And security seems to be a huge issue these days, particularly for facilities that primarily have youths in them, which I think this building is. Has that been taken into account? I didn't see anything on it. I don't even, as I said, I don't even know if it's within our purview, except to the extent that, you may be talking about, emergency doors or
Sure.
panic bars and that
I
kind of
understand the
stuff.
question completely. So we have had multiple meetings with the Park District of Highland Park, their security consultant. And so, from a ingress and egress from the public perspective, what we know right now is that the main entry, which is the east entry of the building, that'll serve as the primary entrance into the facility. That will be on a controlled access panel. It'll be controlled by a front kind of security desk that'll have views to that area. And then they can determine, based upon use and need and what they feel is appropriate, they can be able to either have both doors locked in the vestibule, have one door locked, have them unlocked, have them on timers. So that's something that what we have done is we worked on saying, because in all of our school designs, in our community center designs, we want to limit the number of ingress points into the building. And so we've been very mindful of that with them, and it's something that they've been very sensitive to. So we're going to follow the protocols that they're implementing at all their other facilities and kind of the standard of care. So happy to take this offline candidly a little bit, but just know that we are going to follow what they're doing at the other facilities.
Oh, yep. Director Fontaine, questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just in terms of this particular line of questioning, of course, safety is always a concern of the city, park district, all governmental entities, and even private entities as well. I would say that the details of that security are outside the scope of the review of the land use consideration in terms of operations and land use impact. And so I respectfully say that I defer and leave that to the bodies that do manage the park district, meaning the park board, as well as their administration. Those types of provisions and plans or strategies are really best kept confidential, in my opinion, respectfully.
And that's fine. I think maybe part of the reason for the questions, we don't have super detailed blueprints, so we can't see for ourselves where the entrances and exits are, but I know that will come later.
And just one item on that, if I may.
Uh-huh.
So the building code does require, egress and ingress, a certain, depending on the use of the building and its rooms, there's certain things that are dictated by the building code. And so this is subject to our current building code. It's 2018 international code. And so they will have to abide by that at a minimum. Okay. That is a minimum code. Beyond that is at their discretion. But again, that goes in line with their safety and security plans and will be operated accordingly, I'm sure. And so I just wanted that opportunity to say those things. Thank you.
Great, thank you, we appreciate that.
Well, I also, it's notable that the police department had no comments, so I did take note of that.
Okay.
I suspect
This
they
was
look
referred to
into
the
that.
police department too, that is correct.
And we appreciate the comments. And we're sensitive to that with you.
Okay, and now back to Council Member Ross.
Thank you, Chair Moore. It's backing up just for my, I guess, peace of mind to Commissioner Kirsch brought up, and I had written it down. I forgot to read the question, but and you already answered it. But I just want more, I guess, assurance that you went from 40,000 square feet to 20,000, and you explained that there was redundant square footage. And I just am asking, I don't know if, again, being relatively new to this liaison alternate position even, if I can ask this, but there are pieces like the ceramics program that are, I think, being relocated. And you haven't cut out program. I mean, you've cut out square footage, but I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, no, from a utilization point of view.
Utilization standpoint.
So for example, the best example I can give you is, so the youth enrichment rooms, those are intended to flex for art so that you can have youth enrichment.
So it's flex space.
Yes,
Okay.
and so what we found was, we might have some spaces with a 40% utilization rate. We might have others with 20%. And so we're just being very mindful with the team, is that we're looking for kind of that 70 to 80, maybe even 90 in some of the rooms, percent utilization. So as an example, we will have the dance studios can flex for perhaps theater, right? And we have the community room that can flex for some of their community partners that need those spaces, and then youth enrichment to be able to flex for art. Ceramics specifically, if the board so chooses to bring that in and there's additional funding for that, and we certainly have a spot for that. But the ceramics itself, the kilns and all that, that's a very specialized piece. That specifically is not going to make the move on day one, but it certainly may be implemented. So yeah, thank you.
One clarification is that we're calling them, I know they're called youth enrichment rooms, but they're really just enrichment rooms, because they may have youth enrichment maybe in the morning, but they really are just enrichment rooms because they can have an adult sewing class. I mean, it could really be anything. It's just a room. So just want to clarify that this really serves all ages. And that was something we heard and are taking into consideration, but that would be more of a programming purview, not design.
And I do know that with, square footage costs, that you could have a low square footage cost, but if you're overbuilding, then you're driving up the cost of the project. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more questions for the applicant? All right. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come speak? All righty. Okay, come on up. Please come up to the podium. And please state your name and spell it.
My name is Don Lucente, Lucente. And I want to thank.
And then just so you know, we give everybody 3 minutes to speak.
Sure.
Oh, and then we need to swear you in. So, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right.
I want to thank
ahead.
the commissioner and the city officials, Park District tonight for this opportunity. I've never been so frustrated and disgusted. I've lived on Ridge Road for 38 years and 60 years in Highland Park. I've received a couple of notices, one being a registered letter, May 23 meeting and the May 30th meeting, that I attended both, including the registered letter. What just happened? I mean, how did this project get done beyond my eyes? I mean, I have a new concept to introduce about involving the public on the ground floor planning of these kind of things. I'm an advocate of open park, Ridge Road. As you travel Ridge Road, it's a beautiful view, the open park. I believe in the same footprint as Westridge School. It can be done. I've been an electrician all my life and worked on many projects through Highland Park. And a good example is the Highland Park Police Station. I mean, it's so late, I can't even form a petition in the neighborhood. And I know people in my neighborhood, it's a done deal, Don. But for my own mental health, I just wanted to get this off of my chest. I just want to thank you tonight.
Well, thank you for coming in. Please come up. Okay, I'll get you sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And then please give us your name and spell it.
I'm Ed Brill, B-R-I-L-L.
All right, go ahead. When you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
I actually hadn't planned to speak, but I actually want to thank the Park District for the meetings that they've had for the last several years on this project. I also live on Ridge Road, and I'm personally very excited about this project, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity to build a facility that we need in our neighborhood and to modernize the facilities on the west side of town. There have actually been several community meetings that I've been attending for a couple of years now, and so I think that the scaled down footprint is actually appropriate to the facility that's available. I'm a little concerned about the ball fields and the safety village being a future thing. That hand wave feels uncomfortable to me. Maybe it is the way that plans normally come to the commission or the council in phases, but I don't know what it's going to look like in the meantime if we build the building and then have sort of nothing until a future point. But I guess that's a consideration that will get addressed at some point. I think overall the movement of the concept of the movement of the ball fields into the interior of the site is a better flow, a better lighting scape, especially at night. I think that the multi-use facility is exactly what the neighborhood needs. And I think that the traffic can be accommodated appropriately. I'm especially happy to have the circular driveway removed because there's definitely a lot of contention on Ridge as we try to use it. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any more public comments? Please come up, or do we have a? Hi.
Sarah Apple.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
Great, thank you so much. Can you spell your last name?
APPLE.
Like the fruit, okay.
Yep. Now, I'm just here to talk about whether the ceramic studio is going to be eliminated or not. And I hear a lot of discussion about flexibility in usage of the space. And I know that the ceramic studio there is that is less possible to keep that to make that use multi-use, but ceramic program is extremely important. It was important to my children. It's important to the community. The amount of money that is spent in the city for sports programs, sports facility, dwarfs the amount of money that is spent on arts programming, and just want to advocate for this program. And I don't know how far along you are in the planning, but I hope it's not eliminated. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Fontaine.
Madam Chair, with regard to specific programming of the facility, that's really handled from the administration of the Park District and their board, and those decisions are theirs to make. To the extent that there is or isn't such a facility, of course, the building code will apply and will need to be met regardless.
Thank you. All right, any more questions from the public? All right, so I think the first thing on our agenda that you need from us, Mr. Burhop, is to, where'd my list go? Approve the rezoning from, and turning it into PA, correct?
Correct, that would be the first action. There are no findings of fact, though.
There are no findings of
This would
fact, so
be
we're just voting on that.
This would be to direct, if correct, if the commission wanted to direct approval or otherwise.
For the rezoning,
No, but some of the other pieces.
some of the other pieces, but we're doing these one at a time, I think.
Right.
So I would think we can get the rezoning dealt with today. So can we get a motion can I get a motion? To approve I guess I'm not supposed to make the motion, but we're looking for a motion to,
Direct staff to
Okay,
draft findings of fact related to the rezoning of this area to PA, as indicated through the staff report, the area.
So moved.
okay.
Seconded.
So motion by Commissioner Hecht and seconded by Commissioner Mantis. Can you call the roll? Oh, any discussion on that? Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The motion carries. This item has directed staff to draft findings of fact, approving or recommending approval of a rezoning as described here this evening.
Okay, so can you bring up the second? Oh yeah, there it is. So now we need a special use permit for a community and recreational center land use. Does the board, does the commission feel it needs more information on this? Can we get a motion?
I move that we direct staff to draft findings of fact recommending approval of the special use permit for the community and recreational center land use as per the application.
Okay, so motion by Commissioner Hecht. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner Kirch. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hecht.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This motion carries, and staff is directed to draft findings of fact recommending approval of that special use.
Okay, so now for the next item, which is the design review, the applicant is coming back with the bollards and the downlighting. And I would think more detailed plans about the outside. So do we want to move to continue the meeting, to continue the issue to either the next meeting, or Carl, how does that look? The next meeting, the meeting after that?
We would recommend that all items be continued, but having said that, next meeting.
July 2nd, Tuesday.
Okay, so all items are just,
All.
okay, so
We directed.
findings of fact, so they have to come back, right? So can I get a motion on that?
Collectively, the continuation of all three items related
Yes.
to this matter, it's 636 and 640 Ridge Road.
Yes.
I would move we continue those three matters to our next meeting on July 2nd.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Henry.
Voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So all in favor of that motion passes. This item will be continued to the July 2nd meeting. Mr. Fontaine.
Yes, and notice is actual. There'll be no new notice for this meeting, this continuation to July 2nd, 2024, this room, 7 PM. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody's help. All right. Do we have an administrative design review update?
Oh, actually, there is one administrative review update.
Okay.
For design review to the Community Partners of Affordable Housing Project on 925 Deerfield Road. That was an 8-unit attached townhome project, all affordable housing. There was a administrative design review approval to modify the front entrances to make them ADA accessible, and then relocation of one window on the back with another window, and then removal of one window on the top floor where there's a closet, and additional shrubs to the landscaping plan.
All right, great. Okay. Our next regular meeting will be July 2nd, 2024. So far, we know we have this item on the agenda for the Westridge Center. And I believe we also continued the Ravinia item to
That's right.
July 2nd. Anything else?
That will be it. Those are the only 2 items that will be on that agenda.
Okay. Okay, and do we have a case briefing?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Any more business from the public? No, we have one member of the public we thought we'd ask.
We deserve it.
Just said no, okay. In that case, I will adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Kurt,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hecht. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is, that was unanimous. This meeting is adjourned.